During the New Year celebrations, Damien suddenly declared that the card game was boring and suggested we play for higher stakes. He slammed his BMW car keys down on the table and asked if we dared to match him. I knew he was just showing off his new car. Everyone was taken aback, quickly saying, "We're just playing for fun, we can't match that," while praising him for being so impressive at such a young age. I hesitated because my hand had 3 kings. Damien was basking in the compliments, ready to shuffle the cards when I quietly slid my Mercedes car keys onto the table and said, "I'll match." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at me in disbelief, and Damien's eyes widened in shock. The atmosphere turned tense. The moment we both placed our car keys on the table, any sense of family ties vanished. But I had no regrets. After all, he was the one who put his BMW keys up first. If he could play so ruthlessly with family, I wouldn't care about his feelings anymore. Damien smirked and said, "How much money do you have in your pocket to scare me? This is a BMW we're talking about. You better gather your cash. Don't bring that old Mercedes to the table." I shot him a cold glare. I hated playing cards with him. What should have been a joyful New Year celebration turned sour because he flaunted his wealth, raising the stakes higher with every bet. Anyone who has played cards knows that those with less money are at the mercy of those with more. While we were betting $1 or $2, he would bet 500. We all urged him not to play so high among family. But he innocently replied, "Is 500 really that much?" He was just bullying us for being poor, knowing we wouldn't dare to match him. He came to the game just to toy with the dignity of us less fortunate relatives. Realizing my Mercedes couldn't compete with his BMW, I turned to call for Elena. We were about to get married, and she wore the 3 golds I had bought for her. I said, "Put the gold chain and bracelet on the table." Elena glanced at me, not even asking what cards I had, and simply removed her chain and bracelet, placing them on the table. In that moment, a phrase popped into my mind. With a wife like this, what more could a man want? I looked at Damien seriously and said, "Is this enough? Are you ready to reveal your cards?" Damien's expression changed. He clenched his teeth, probably not expecting me to defy him. With a hint of mockery, he said, "Little brother, don't blame me for not making it clear. Losing a BMW doesn't matter to me. But if you lose everything, how will your family survive for the next 5 years?" I shook my head and replied, "It's fine. My family has our own way of living. Besides, didn't you and Melanie just say at the dinner table that I'm not bold enough?" Damien's face darkened further. I had never offended him before, but earlier at the dinner table, he had belittled me for not making as much money as he did, looking down on me for being too timid, unlike him, who was already a boss. Halfway through his rant, Dad handed him a cigarette, trying to help him light it, but he didn't even bother to shield himself from the wind. City folks, and girls, might not understand what that meant. But in the countryside, when an elder lights a cigarette without blocking the wind, it signifies that he doesn't respect us, humiliating my family in front of everyone. Everyone nervously looked at Damien, asking if he was going to reveal his cards. He took a deep breath and suddenly said, "If we're going to play, let's play even bigger. That's what excites me." He abruptly laid his cards on the table, covered them with a plate, and stepped outside. We sat in the room, watching him retrieve a small wooden box from the trunk of his BMW and bring it back inside, placing it on the table. When he opened the box, it was filled with cash. Damien proudly declared, 300,000. "Are you in or out?" Our actions had already caught the attention of the elders. Uncle Vernon, seeing what Damien was doing, panicked and quickly said, "Have you lost your mind? You're using the New Year's advance payment?" Damien sat down with a grin, unconcerned, and said, "It's fine, I can afford it. The question is, do you dare to match me?" I immediately understood Damien's scheme. In a game of bluff, there's usually a cap on the bets to prevent them from getting too high. But when Damien started playing, he specifically said there would be no cap, wanting to raise the stakes until I couldn't keep up and lost everything. Sure enough, he arrogantly said to me, "You're not going to back down, are you? If you can't match this, you can't withdraw what you've already put in." Uncle quickly caught on to Damien's strategy and couldn't help but laugh, then returned to playing mahjong with the other elders, not even glancing our way. I clenched my fists, remaining silent because I couldn't possibly come up with 300,000 in cash. Just then, Elena spoke up. "It's okay, we can put our wedding house on the line." In an instant, everyone turned to look at her in disbelief. Uncle Vernon, caught off guard, dropped his cigarette and forgot about the mahjong, while Damien stared at us, unable to tell if he was angry or nervous. Both of them trembling slightly, the elders stopped playing mahjong and rushed over to us, saying we were playing too high. Dad was furious. He hurried over, punched my shoulder, and exclaimed, "Have you lost your mind? You're going to bankrupt us." As Dad scolded me, he tried to see my cards, but I held them tightly, refusing to show him. Anyone who knows how to play bluff knows you can never reveal your cards to anyone, as their expressions can betray you. I had 3 kings, and only 3 aces could beat me. Damien had started this war, and every seasoned player knows that a hand with 3 kings can either lead to bankruptcy or bloodshed at the table. Elena earnestly said to Damien, "Our wedding house is worth $500,000. We're putting in an extra $200,000. Are you in or out?" Uncle shouted angrily, "Have you both lost your minds?" He quickly leaned over the table, trying to push our chips back, yelling at me, "Don't provoke your brother. He's a big boss who doesn't want to deal with you. Apologize to him quickly if you want him to help you make money in the future." I grabbed Uncle and shouted, "You put that stuff down." Uncle was taken aback by my outburst, trembling in surprise. I gritted my teeth and said, "When he bet 500, none of you said a word. When he was bragging at the dinner table, you let Dad light his cigarette. Today, he put his car keys on the table first, and I'm going to match him all the way." Uncle stared at me, dumbfounded, and said, "How dare you speak to your elder like that?" I looked at Damien coldly and said, "You either match this 200,000 and reveal your cards, or you forfeit everything you've already put in. There's a third option. We can call this whole game off. Take our chips back, but you'll have to apologize to my dad." Everyone in the room fell silent. They had all witnessed Damien using 2 fingers to hold his cigarette while Dad lit it for him. But at that moment, no one dared to speak up. I even noticed Uncle looking a bit smug. Damien laughed in anger and asked, "Are you really acting so tough in front of family?" I shook my head and replied, "The moment you put your car keys on the table, we stopped being family." Damien was silent for a few seconds before suddenly smirking and saying, "Fine. Don't blame me for scaring you. You're the one who wants to match, right?" He suddenly picked up his cards and revealed 2 queens to me. The moment I saw his cards, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But my expression remained serious. Damien shook his head and said, "Guess if my last card is a 3 of a kind." Revealing half of your cards is a common tactic in bluffing, meant to intimidate others while gauging their reactions. He couldn't scare me. Even if he did have 3 of a kind, it would still be smaller than my 3 kings. I had worried he might have 3 aces, but now it seemed my concerns were unfounded. Damien's show-off tactics had backfired, putting him in a corner. Of course, while I felt relaxed inside, I still gritted my teeth and said, "I bet you're just trying to scare me. Are you in or out?" Damien stared into my eyes, as if trying to read my thoughts. Bluffing is all about performance. Normally, relatives would chime in with their opinions, but in this situation, no one dared to speak up, because before the cards are revealed, it's impossible to tell what's real or fake. Damien nervously scanned the expressions of all the relatives. Every bet had been initiated by him. If he backed down now, he wouldn't be able to show his face among the family anymore. Finally, he called to his wife. "Come here." Melanie reluctantly approached the table. Damien told her to put up the 3 golds because Melanie's were worth much more than Elena's. Unlike Elena, who had willingly offered her jewelry, Melanie refused to take hers off. At that moment, Damien panicked and quickly showed Melanie his cards. Melanie looked over the cards and immediately displayed her excitement, taking off all her gold jewelry and placing them on the table. With a grin, she said to me, "Come on, let's go all in. Don't regret it if you lose. Today, all our relatives will witness this. Anyone who backs out will have bad luck." I asked, "Are you saying we're going to show our cards?" Melanie replied eagerly, "Why show? We're going all the way with you." Her greed was evident, but everyone else had already run out of chips. Suddenly, she took off her diamond ring and placed it on the table, declaring, "I bought this ring for $50,000. I shook my head. "I can't accept the ring. It's worth at most $100. Melanie got flustered, pointing at my nose and scolding, "What do you know? Do you even understand what this is? This is a designer piece. It's Dr." I forced a smile and said, "Sister-in-law, I don't care what it is. To me, it's only worth $100. Just as she was about to retort, Damien suddenly chimed in, "I'll put my house on the line." Gas filled the room. Uncle exclaimed, "Don't be reckless. That house is in the city center. It's worth $150,000. Damien sneered, "Dad, I'm not being reckless. Whatever I bet, he has to match. According to the rules of this game, each bet must be equal to or greater than the last. Little brother, do you have the cash to keep up?" I fell silent because I couldn't possibly come up with that much money. Damien noticed my discomfort and burst into laughter, patting me on the shoulder. He said, "Some things you just can't afford to play with. I'm telling you straight, I'm taking advantage of your low stakes. But what can you do?" I nervously glanced at Elena and Dad. My father was pale, struggling to understand how a simple game had escalated to this point, but Elena suddenly spoke up. "My parents have a house. Use their house under my name. It's not in the city center, but it's still worth $500,000. I grabbed her hand, excitedly saying, "No way, the wedding house is my responsibility, and I'm the one buying the 3 gold items. If I lose, we can break up, and it won't affect you. But if you put your family's belongings on the line, I could ruin your family." Elena replied coldly, "We can't back down. If we do, we'll never stand tall again. I trust you won't do anything reckless." I trembled uncontrollably, but it was a tremble of happiness. I knew I was going to win. All of this was a performance for Damien, making him think I was just as anxious. But from Elena's perspective, it was different. She had no idea what my cards were, yet she was willing to risk everything alongside me. Damien mocked, "There's a difference between houses and you're still short 100,000. How do you plan to make that up? If you can't keep up, just get off the table and stop whining." I took a deep breath and finally said, "The village is about to be demolished, my parents and my soon-to-be wife. That's 4 people. When the demolition compensation comes, it'll all go to you." Melanie burst into laughter, covering her mouth. "Do you think this is Guangdong? We're in a rundown village. The compensation for 4 people will only be 60,000, and you're still short 40,000. She turned to Damien and said, "I'm not trying to mock your relatives, but can they really scrape together that much?" Damien replied nonchalantly, "The way you're scrambling for bets is really pathetic. Sometimes face is given by others, and sometimes it's lost by yourself. If you can't come up with enough, just fold." Uncle Vernon, seeing that I couldn't raise that much money, finally sighed in relief and said to Dad in a lecturing tone, "Your son doesn't know his limits. Now look, he can't keep up with the bets, and everything he put in is gone." Dad remained pale, standing there, swallowing hard, and said to me, "Why are you being so foolish? What else do you plan to bet? You've gambled away the whole family." I remained silent, continuously operating my phone to borrow from every online lending platform I could. In the end, I placed my phone in front of Damien, showing a balance of 400,000. Damien was momentarily stunned, saying, "How do you have such a high limit?" I explained, "I borrowed from 8 platforms, all with my vehicle information recorded. I originally intended to use this money for the wedding, and I applied for limits from each platform to compare interest rates. I didn't expect it would come in handy now." Damien's anger turned to laughter as he bit down on a cigarette, saying, "You're really something, borrowing online loans to gamble against me. Do you understand that if you can't pay this back, you'll ruin your life?" I replied, "I know, but it's fine. I'm here to play until the end." He asked, "Do you really want to push this to the breaking point?" I countered, "When Dad offered you a cigarette, didn't you shield the wind with your hand?" Dad panicked, rushing to my side and grabbing my arm, saying, "Your brother is a big boss and doesn't sweat the small stuff. Don't gamble, there's no need to go so big. He didn't mean it." Tension boiled. Damien called for Elena. She refused to give her golds. Only after Damien showed her the cards did she smile and place everything on the table. And then came the final blow. Just as everyone thought the game had reached its limit, a calm voice spoke up. Maya, my quiet cousin from the city who had been observing from the corner, stood up. Everyone turned to her, confused. She walked toward the table, opened her designer handbag, and took out a leather folder. Without a word, she opened it and laid it down in front of Damien. Inside was a notarized letter from her lawyer, a legal document showing that her family's land was already approved for acquisition for a new development zone. The confirmed compensation? $1.2 million. She looked at Damien and said, "This land is under my name. Consider this my stake." The room fell into stunned silence. Damien's jaw dropped. He reached for his cards. but I stopped him. No need. I'll reveal mine first. I slowly flipped over my cards, one by one.
King of spades, king of hearts, king of clubs.
3 kings! Gasps, shouts, a stunned hush, followed by chaos. Uncle Vernon stumbled backward, nearly knocking over the mahjong table. Dad sat down heavily, burying his face in both hands. Damien stood frozen. His fingers trembled as he uncovered his hand. Disappointed. Queen of diamonds, queen of spades, jack of hearts. Resigned. Just 2 queens and a jack. Defeated. A losing hand. Sophia screamed, "You said you had it!" Damien whispered, broken, "I thought he would fold." I calmly gathered my cards, then the keys, the gold, the stack of cash, and the documents. I looked at Damien one last time and said, firm, victorious, "Remember this moment, Damien. This wasn't just a card game. This was you trying to humiliate your own blood. And today, blood fought back."